incident was about to take place that would shake the foundations of the civilized world.
It is time to open your mind. Time to discover your divine self as we navigate this holographic matrix together. Strap in, cosmic family, as we slide through this wormhole of cosmic information together in search of the truth. The truth.
You can't handle the truth.
It's time to go inside the matrix.
Inside the matrix.
With your host, Jimmy Brent.
All right, welcome everybody to Inside the Matrix. I hope that all of you out there are doing well in spite of the scamdemic that we're experiencing and continue to experience. And it's crazy. Anyway, before we get started with the show, I just wanted to take a minute and thank all of you who have donated to the show. It is through your efforts that we're able to continue here. And I have been the sole sponsor of the show for a long, long time. And to have some assistance at this time, you know, for somebody that's been out of work for a while is very welcome and very much appreciated. So I wanted to just mention that. And if any of you out there are inclined to want to help us out, there's a donate button on the homepage of kcorradio.com. And during the checkout process, you can write in the text box there which show it's for. And we very much appreciate all of that. I really don't even like having to mention that, but circumstances being the way they are, sometimes we have to ask for a little help. Anyway, I wanted to introduce to you, today's guest is Cyrus Parsa. He is the founder and CEO of the AI organization, where he is also the director of creative analysis and defensive innovations. He has researched and investigated more than 1,000 AI, robotics, 5G, cybernetic, and big tech companies. He warned of the coronavirus, China, and every major technological and geopolitical aspect transpiring in the pandemic lockdown, with the publication of AI, Trump, China, and the weaponization of robotics with 5G and artificial intelligence dangers to humanity. Cyrus's mission is to help safeguard humanity first and prevent disasters to the world's people from China, big tech, and the misuse of AI and biotechnology. As a last resort, Cyrus filed the biggest lawsuit in human history, consisting of 87 pages on December 16, 2019. He updated to disclose John Doe's on February 24, 2020. And that was against China's communist regime, Silicon Valley, major world leaders, media outlets, and institutes, charging them for endangering the world's people, complicity, weaponization of AI biotech, robotics, drones, facial recognition misuse, complicity to Chinese genocide, negligent transfer of biotech to China, and biometric social media manipulation of people's emotions, thoughts, and neural networks as they engage with smartphones, IoT, media, and the world at large. Cyrus's intention was not to single out just these few entities, but rather to warn the world's citizens that we're in danger and to allow them to make an immediate change with China's Communist Party by getting these entities to make a change for the world's well-being. Everyone contributed in some way or another to the world's issues, not just people on the left or the right who were pointed out, liberals, conservatives, people of all walks of life were complicit in some way or another. Cyrus wishes for the world to end its negative path, increase their virtues, improving the futures and well-being of every person in the world through free will, respect, and awakening. Cyrus, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jim, and the audience. Thank you for having me on.
I really appreciate you being here, and that's your intent is flawless and wonderful, and we really appreciate that. Now, being new to our show, I always ask our new guests if they would kind of give us a feel for how they were raised, where they came from, and kind of, in a nutshell sort of way, how you got to where you are today and, your current state of consciousness and all that, because we all have a road to travel before we get to where we are. So if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, that would be awesome.
Sure. I was born in Tehran, Iran. We were not Muslim. We were persecuted a bit. So we left the country after the Revolution, 1979. I got to Austria, and then I believe about 7 years in Virginia, on the East Coast of the United States, 10 years in the Midwest, and I've been in California for roughly 17 years. I spent almost a year in China in the mountains with fighting Wudang monks, which comprise of not just Wudang arts, of martial arts, but Qigong internal arts and some meditation. I think I trained maybe 16, 17, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week while I was there. Wow. And I have a BS in national security, master's in homeland security, and then I didn't finish a PhD program. And I had issues with them. They were promoting pedophilia, and I wouldn't have any of that. So in 2002, I finished an 800-page book. I had 800 subtitles, and it integrated everything. I had no degrees, and it was called Better People, Better World, the book to save and change a better world. Because I first saw a lot of issues coming to the world's people roughly around this time. You could say I had some lucid dreams or visions. I don't want to get too deep maybe at the moment. So in 2017, I formed Loyal Guardian Security, which is consultation and analysis, risk analysis for companies that deal with China and big tech and just safety to the citizens of the world. 2018, I formed the AI organization. So the AI organization, its mission, you went over it, but basically to make sure there's no misuse of AI biotech, which could endanger the world's citizens. I researched and investigated 1,000 companies related to AI and robotics and bioengineering and cybernetics to come to my conclusion, which I gave a 5-page brief to the Secret Service last year around this time, which stated that if within 1 year, maximum 2 years, if China, the Communist Party, and our big tech is not curtailed, that all the world's citizens are endangered or can be enslaved. About 3 months later, approximately June 15, I gave my final report to the former director of CIA cover-ops, who was with 3 presidents, that China threatens all the world's citizens, and they're doing, all these preparation for biological weapons and drone systems and artificial intelligence, quantum robotics, and so on. I gave him 41 companies, and 20 of those President Trump had banned. A few months later, I waited and waited, and when I knew that China was figuring out that President Trump was not just doing a trade war, but he was trying to take him out because they were endangering the world, I published AI, Trump, China, and the Weaponization of Robotics of 5G. The subtitle concluded with Why the World Needs to Support the Trump Administration Against China's Regime. And even in the subtitle to describe the threats, the virus was described in the subtitle in code. I write a lot of code in terms of the code language that I put in the book. I particularly didn't put any company names. Right away, people that I know within Homeland Security dispatched the CIA, dispatched the White House. Within 2.5 weeks, President Trump was sitting with the Prime Minister of Australia, and he stated, China threatens all the world's citizens. Exactly what my book synopsis said. You can look at it on Amazon. It hasn't been changed. And then he turns over. He says, "You do robotics too, right?" And on my book cover, there is President Trump's head on top of George Washington, riding a horse, representing the Constitution. I have a robot, a Terminator robot, / cybernetic person, and then a smartphone on top of the head, representing AI coding and AI algorithms that are programming and manipulating the human race to accept this 5G system the way it's coming out with cybernetics and bioengineering and so on. And then on the bottom left of the cover, I picked Karl Marx to display how the world can be, not only is in danger, but most of the world's citizens. I found extinction codes for the world's citizens in stages the next 20 years as it relates to artificial intelligence and big tech in China when it connects to the platform of socialism and communism. Nobody would take me everybody laughed at me, and some really smart people and some media companies actually plagiarized my work when I took my books, saying, would you please cover these? The world's people are in danger. All these things are coming, drones, machines, the threat of virus, all these different things. And so I took to Twitter. I created social media. For 2 months I was battling, and finally the Epoch Times, or NTTV, as a Chinese outlet, in Chinese they ran an article describing me, my background, and the AI organization. Within 2 hours, got 1 million views, broke the records. And then I think 4 million Hong Kong people came to my website within 3 hours. And my conclusion was that the females who were dying and ending up in the rivers were not really suicides. They were actually killed and murdered after they were raped by Chinese paramilitary forces who were embedded into the police departments of Hong Kong, that they were dispatched there by Beijing. So at that point, a week later, 2 weeks later, I published Artificial Intelligence Dangers to Humanity, which I included AI Trump as an embed inside of it. I expanded on it. I included 50 companies in the book Artificial Intelligence Dangers to Humanity. And there's a Chinese and Western off of at least off of the most important companies that I thought was important, how they connect. The conclusion was the world's citizens are in danger via China and big tech. And within 2 weeks, Trump's AI department said the same thing. China threatens the world with AI, bioengineering, hypersonic missiles, and so on. Again, no media outlet would take me. I ran a press release through PR Newswire, which would have warned all the senators and all the Congress people and every single media in the country that the world is in danger via China and big tech, to all the things that are happening now, actually, and more to come. And right before it was to air, the PR Newswire took it down, said, my book, Artificial Intelligence Dangers to Humanity, is slanderous to China and big tech. So, and I said, well, this is to save even your butt, excuse my language, but they're endangering everybody. Where is the slanders? I'm just telling you the risk assessments. And they wouldn't run it. So I went to another press company. They slipped it through as they were under the umbrella of PR Newswire. But I had to change the wording on it, just say, oh, beautiful book, risk assessment, the AI, da. So then I try to run, again, an article about Huawei and China, how they're about to endanger all the world's people. They approve it. Then PR Newswire says, can't run it. You got to take out how China and big tech threaten the world from the title. As soon as I take that out, they're like, well, you got to take anything out of that says China from the actual article. Then they'd completely disapprove it. So I don't know what to do. It's going into November and then December. I'm tweeting everywhere, asking every anchor that you know of in the entire world, every major anchor, not just liberals, but conservatives and hosts. Please put me on your network. I need to explain how all the world's people are in danger. And this is the findings that I found. We're ahead of any government in the entire world. Let me explain. And the U.S. government was busy fighting. Well, not the U.S. government. Trump administration was busy getting incoming from all those politicians that were trying to take him out. So they were
major media as well.
Yeah, so they were busy with that, and I saw, whoa, this huge thing is coming. It's going to smack everybody. It's going to kill a lot of people, and not just what's happened today. It's going to get even worse from what I found before, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll run in a lawsuit because in my book I describe how in the future a lot of people will be sued, a lot of companies. So on December 16th, I submitted to federal court a lawsuit. Now, the amended complaint was the original one done in February, but the lawsuit stated that I'll give you 4 of the main claims because there was actually 31. The first one was endangering all the world's citizens, the misuse of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and bioengineering and so on. Second one was complicity to genocide in China, physical genocide, against the Falun Dafa spiritual practitioners, the House Christians, Tibetans, Uyghurs, and the common citizens for 20 years, including organ harvesting. And then complicity to cultural genocide in the US through introduction of cybernetics and bioengineering of human beings. I named Google as an alphabet. And then I also named Facebook, and I named Neuralink, which is Elon Musk, and Tesla as well. I named Elon Musk, and I also named Sergey Brin, Larry Page, and Mark Zuckerberg, just the main faces. And I also named PR Newswire. And I included 29 John Does that were unnamed. The other claims were manipulating and controlling humanity's thoughts, emotions, without their understanding, free will, or approval, through AI coding, AI algorithms, as people interface with their smartphones, IoTs, social media like Twitter, Facebook, and a gamut of things that include your search engines on Google and so on. The fourth one was extracting humanity's biometrics, which includes your facial recognition, your voice recognition, your geolocation, your family data, without your knowledge or approval, for the purpose of building a quantum super intelligent machine that went to Google, and then the negligent transfer of your information that went to China. So these are the main four, but I had more. And as soon as I did that, I think it reached tens of millions of people, maybe even over 100 million people, because there were people on Twitter who just took parts of it and kept on tweeting, "Oh my God, these guys are sued. It's Christmas," and so on and so on. And I was hoping I would get some media attention, but I did not one media. I went to every media outlet afterwards. And I said, "Look, here's a lawsuit, and the world's people are in danger. Please cover me." I have, even to Twitter, DMs, and other outlets, not one paper, liberal or conservative, would pick it up. Not one. Say, "The world's in danger. Please pick me up now. Something big is going to happen. Let me explain. All these things will happen." Not one would pick me up. Not one. All not just liberals, conservatives, all the good guys you see today on both left and right saying, oh, let's do this. This is bad. This is bad. They avoid it, and still today they're avoiding. So, what do I do? I'm asking people to retweet me. None of the big account people were to retweet me. Only they took small parts of it for their own Twitter platforms to build, and they didn't give me the credit. They just took their information rather than saying where it came from. So I'm stuck. I need donations. I've run out of money. Everyone's afraid around me. They're all winning a shot. So the people that are in my clique in the surface to disappear, not the ones that are behind me. I request and ask for donations so I can send U.S. Marshals after everyone and service them so that I can bring media attention and get a world dialogue before this stuff hits. And I'm having trouble. I start running videos. I create episodes on the AI Organization channel. I do so many different things, from articles and different things. Nothing. No media would pick me up. Right before lockdown happened, on February 24th, I decided to release the John Does, which included former President Barack Hussein Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Schiff, the former director of CIA cover-ups. Former director of CIA Brennan, Comey, and even Clapper. I charge these guys and ladies for negligent transfer of our AI biotechnology to China under their leadership, because they let our companies do business with China. And some of them, like Obama, I charged that he knew that the Falun Dafa practitioners, Tibetans, Christians, and Uyghurs were being held in concentration camps and being killed for their organs. And he looked the other way, and he didn't allow any investigation to be done. He didn't say anything. He let us do business with China. So charge him with that. And I included the World Bank for giving money to China. I included Harvard, by the way. It's February 24th. Harvard, MIT, and I also include Boston Dynamics for creating robotics that are supposed to come out, and the WIS Institute, which creating robo bees to replace the actual bees in the wild that can tag people even with vaccines. Draper, which creates cybernetically enhanced insects. All these nefarious things you see that are even beyond the Matrix. And it was the greatest intel drop in human history. And in a sense, it even shocked the intel community, and it shocked the White House. Although there was no response for them, they were shocked. 87 pages. And then boom, the lockdown happens a few weeks later. I'm still right before, I'm like, would you please retweet me? I'm asking every person with a big Twitter account that even says, oh, deep state is bad. They will not retweet me. They will not do it. And nobody would bring attention to it. All my artificial intelligence findings, nobody would do that. Not one big account. So I got $3,000 in donations from the world's people before lockdown. And up until yesterday, I was at $10,000. So now we're at a part where just this pandemic is going on, and I don't want to cause a civil war. And this is, I did it mainly to bring attention because I wanted to save lives. I wanted to do what I can because I found extinction codes for the majority of the human race in stages. And it'd be a long time to explain how that works, but I apologize to your audience. I may have gone a little too long with describing this narrative.
No, that's great. And we're getting an echo here somehow. But anyway, it's important to talk about all of these things, and I appreciate you going through your background. And we got just a couple more minutes for the break here. But when we come back, I definitely want to get into the extinction codes because I don't think people are fully aware of how that is and what that entails. It's pretty nefarious and insidious. One thing that comes to mind with all of this is that it's been right in our face the whole time if people are willing to take a look. And unfortunately, a lot of people are still paying attention to mainstream media and listening to all the propaganda because the mainstream media is in full lockstep with this entire agenda. And people need to understand that. If you want to get any idea of what's really happening in the world, you have to turn off mainstream media because that is fully weaponized with propaganda and psychotronic weaponry. So that's one thing that we definitely have to be very aware of. So anyway, Cyrus, when we come back, we're going to take a short pause in just a little bit here, but when we come back, I want to get into just a little bit about the extinction codes, and there's so many different technologies that we need to cover, but let's get in on that, and I'd like to ask anybody out there, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat or give us a call. We'd be happy to field some questions. So we're going to take a short pause. You're listening to Inside the Matrix with our special guest, Cyrus Parsa. We'll be right back. Stick around with us.
You're listening to Inside the Matrix. Inside the Matrix.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Matrix with our special guest, Cyrus Parsa. Now, before the break, we were just mentioning about extinction codes that Cyrus had found. Now, those are very interesting. And the way I'm understanding it is that this is a type of I guess you could call it genocide against the people of the world that would happen in stages. Is that right, Cyrus?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
So what I did was take the information of all these companies and then connected them to the geopolitics of the world. I've studied them for 20 years. Any simulation that I ran, it ended with the same result of something coming from China and in stages extincting the majority of the human race. If it wasn't from a virus, it was from surveillance or enslavement. If it wasn't from that, be from famine. If it wasn't from that, be from conflicts. If it wasn't from that, it's from wars or so many other things. So everything was rooted from China's communism and how it interconnects with their big tech and the way everything is designed. Everything from society, from from the psychology of our media companies, the way they're run, from our institutions, from our businesses. Everything was being interconnected on one platform, which I consider to be a social capital platform, which is a combination of socialism and capitalism to create an artificial general or super intelligence on the AI system that eventually extincts the majority of the human race.
Wow. Now, is this AI intelligence? Who controls that? I guess that would be some kind of a quantum computer. Who is actually in control of that?
Well, according to scientists, there's 3 levels of artificial intelligence. The first level is artificial narrow intelligence, which comprise of your smartphones, your Internet of Things, your IoTs, your Alexa, your Siri, and so on. The next stage is artificial general intelligence, which companies I put in that book, Artificial Intelligence, Dangerous to Humanity, Hanson Robotics, they want to create a live, living robot that thinks, has free will, desires, and even emotions as a human being would, and the same vice, such as jealousy, lust, ego, pride, anger, all these different types of emotions. The next stage is artificial superintelligence. And that requires, from one perspective, to extract the entire human race's biometrics. Not just your face, not just your voice, but even the way your brain is mapped. Because when you're dealing with these smartphones, you're not just playing with a smartphone that reads your heartbeat or can give you the stories, the videos of the day. No, it's much more sophisticated. This smartphone is a weapon, and it has proximity sensors. The proximity sensors scan your heartbeat. They even connect to your skin receptors, but they do more. They connect with your nervous system. They connect with your neural networks in your brain, your body. They extract this information and give it back to Google. Google gives it to the Google AI for the quantum technology. But there's more. I wrote an article called People Programmed to Attack Trump with AI, social media, Google, and smartphones. And it's quite simple. There's 3 levels that are rudimentary. The first level is general bias in Google and search engines and articles and videos or in the media that's formed from people's innate biases that they have in their emotions. The second level is engineered bias against the Constitution or President Trump, which came from Soros-funded think tanks. He was also named in my lawsuit. Or the Chinese Communist government that use Wu Mao, the 50 centers they call it. It's the 50 Cent Army that attempts to social engineer the public through social media. The third level is these proximity sensors that finishes people off. A lot of people had this concept of Trump deranged syndrome. Before he became president or he ran, the left generally loved Donald Trump because of his casinos and his media empire that he had in his entertainment. Ultra-conservatives generally disliked him because they saw him as maybe not within their moral guidelines. It completely reversed. And if you look at it, some people were beyond the norm of emotions. They had hatred, anger, sorrow, way beyond what is normal. It divided the entire country. And that's because these proximity sensors, whatever you're reading on the smartphone, whatever you're viewing, is actually connecting to your brain and alter your brain chemistry through a process of what I call biodigital social programming. Bio is comprised of your cells, of your bone, your skin, your blood, and even your muscles. Digital includes your neural networks, your digital image, your nervous system. If you have a faith, if you believe in God or a higher power, you would say that is your spirit, your consciousness, or your soul. So biodigital. Social is your social media, your emotions, or your social network. Programming is programming. Biodigital social programming. The entire human race, as they're engaging on the 4G networks, with these smartphones, as it connects to IoTs, the Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, their brain chemistry is being altered and they're having a symbiotic relation with these smartphones. Elon Musk said that we are two-digit cyborgs, that every person is already symbiotic. I say it's a parasitical relationship and you don't know it. You're being trained. And to accept cybernetics on the 5G system, you will lose your free will and your free thoughts. It's not about fast downloads. It's complete total surveillance and altering humanity's thoughts. And these are things most of these high CEOs who are promoting these companies in the 5G, they don't understand these things. They really don't.
Yeah, I think that they like the idea of being able to, influence the public. And I think a lot of them probably their commercial interests are their highest priority because they love making all the money off of people on social media. And of course, that's a big part of it. But the really insidious part is the programming and the absolutely clandestine influence of our thoughts and our emotions. Now, we've witnessed since, whether you like Trump or not, but since he's come into office, we've seen a barrage of attacks go after him like nobody has ever seen before. Now, some people will say, hey, that's just theater, that really Trump is on the side of the globalists all along, that he's just kind of playing a role to further divide people and make them easier and more malleable to being influenced and herded into this global world government type of thing. So any thoughts on that? Do you feel like we do, in fact, have anybody that's on our side as human beings? Or do you feel like this is all just one big ruse or one big play in order to herd us into, what they want?
Well, this was beyond the White House's and even Trump's purview because they were busy dealing with this digital civil war. So when I brought these books and these reports, it was sort of seeping into their purview. But the 5G system is needed for multiple reasons. One is it's relating to our Space Force. And billions of dollars are invested, and these billions of dollars translate to trillions of dollars. Because I did a video, I think back in January, is 5G for machines, humans, or AI? And the short answer is it's for machines powered by artificial intelligence. So a president like President Trump, he's very smart, but with a lot of things that he's good at. But when he's presented information and he said, artificial intelligence, 5G, we're going to do these things, it comes from his AI department. And those guys are techie guys who are PhDs who get their policy and their information from their own interconnection that go into big tech. That being said, the Trump administration is 1,000 times better than the previous administration. They put all these things in play. So they countered and they took out Huawei. And Huawei would have just enslaved the entire all the world, actually. Because Huawei, their plan is to connect their 5G grid system, smart cities, as it mobilizes drones, machines, cybernetics, bioengineering, even flying cars, to the BRI, One Belt, One Road, which connects the Far East to the Middle East, Europe, and Africa. Now, if you noticed, after he got his COVID bout, Boris, he wants Huawei out. I passed some information that went to him a few months ago, and he was a little bit. He still wanted to because they had business deals, right? Now they're looking into it and they're seeing all these big tech issues that we have come from experiments from DARPA and the CIA. And when you unleash these things to the public will lose their free will. So I fought this left and right in terms of bringing the information, but I'm never going to be against our government. I'm not going to be against the administration. they need to counter China. But I don't agree with these 5G towers being next to your home or your family. It'll make your family sick in the long run. And I put out an article and a video really early on that was saying these things, and it's even in my book. So I didn't call it a coronavirus, but it's quite simple. The 5G system doesn't cause the coronavirus. What it does is lower your immunity to any kind of virus, whether it's coronavirus, the flu, even if you have a vaccine from 30, 40 years ago. Because these frequencies are made for machines, to mobilize machines. When you have so many towers on the 5G system, they're so close, and it's going to be 10, 20, even 100 times faster than a 4G system. That frequency of the radiation is connecting to your body, to your nervous system, to your skin, and it's bouncing off these smartphones as well, as the proximity sensors connect with your electrical field, and as the phone also has an electrical field. During this exchange, it lowers your immune system, even causes your cells to morph or divide. It injures your cells. So then, thus, your immunity gets lowered. And if you have a vaccine from 30 years ago, that vaccine may mutate. If you've been exposed to coronavirus, that may become stronger. You may test positive, and then you could die from it, depending on how much exposure you get. Albeit the 5G system that we have in the US and maybe some other places that's not Huawei built is much better than Huawei. Chinese products are cheap and they're unsafe. American products are generally better. But again, 5G, then 6G, and 7G. And I put out a movie called AI, The Plan to Invade Humanity. I recommend everybody watch that. I did use an alien figure, and that was for multiple reasons. But it's a 58-minute long video, hundreds of pictures and images, and it's very complex, but it has great messages, and it shows you the whole picture. I recommend everybody watch that.
And that's on your website?
It's on the AIorganization.com's website, but it's on also our YouTube channel called The AI Organization. It has about 120-something thousand views. It should get 120 million or billions, actually. I did use an alien figure to show that it's an AI invasion, and there's metaphor. But if you also believe in aliens, you may like it. I put out another video yesterday disclosing how I was shown UFO files in 2003. I kept my mouth shut. Actually, when I released this video, I tweeted to President Trump, and I tweeted to the Pentagon, the CIA, and FBI. AI, the plan to invade humanity. As soon as I did this, within 72 hours, the Pentagon officially released their UFO files. And it was everywhere, AI invasion everywhere. I'm pretty sure that tweet, which embedded the video, had something to do with it, but we'll see.
Well, one of the things that I've been made aware of as far as 5G goes is that it's a wide range of frequencies, from the low gigahertz to up to maybe 90 gigahertz in frequencies. So, and all of those different frequencies have different biological effects on the human body and any living biology. So my understanding is that 60 gigahertz is what really interferes with our cells' ability to absorb oxygen, and therefore would create very similar symptoms to what people experience with this whole CV thing. And a lot of people are speculating that, in fact, 5G is what a lot of people are suffering from rather than a virus. If you look at the locations where supposedly the worst of the virus, the CV, hit, in Wuhan, in New York City, Italy, many places around the world, they had already rolled out 5G there. And in the case of Wuhan, they actually had an entire vaccine program that they rolled out a month or two before 5G, where people had to receive mandatory vaccines which, to your point, I believe that those also contribute to lowering the immune system. And there was also a doctor in New York State, it may have been New York City, but he was talking about the patients that he was seeing, their symptoms were like high altitude sickness, as if you had already been dropped to the summit of Mount Everest and you couldn't breathe because you were not acclimated to that elevation, and that treating people for that was what made sense to him. And so that, to me, would very much dovetail towards the theory that 5G is inhibiting the cell's ability to absorb oxygen.
I would agree with the different frequencies and pretty much what you said. 5G has a huge impact on the human body, and there's many layers of it. At the 60, it could cause what you're saying, of course, but there are other metric systems that are not disclosed that these companies are not adept to even using to see what that frequency is doing to the human body. So if it's not hurting your health, it's having a psychological impact on you. If it's not having a psychological impact on you, it's having a programming impact on you. Like I said, biodigital social programming. The fact that it came out of Wuhan and Italy, well, you look at their 5G system. How much of their infrastructure was from Huawei and Chinese products, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a really important factor to look at. But I put out a video, an article, had 23,000 views, and then YouTube took it down because somebody on Twitter complained, and it was shown that interrelationship, and that was the actual main article and video that got all this 5G stuff to start going. And major people who lost their YouTube channels, they actually were looking at my video and then saying the same stuff, but not citing major players in the world. But long story short is, it seems like even the people that you're trying to save from that are in these big tech companies, they don't get it. They're hurting themselves by censoring you. They're hurting their own families. So what if I'm right? What if other people are right? So bees, if you look at, it's a destroyer of bee colonies.
Yep.
It kills bees. Birds have been known to die. And if you look at, there's a lot of videos all around the world of these towers, and the birds are going nuts. They're running away, or they're trying to take down the tower in a sense.
Right.
And so is it that the birds are smarter than human beings, or is
they're reacting to the frequencies?
Yes, they can sense. That's what's important. But human beings don't. Human beings require and depend on machines. Everything that's formed from empirical sciences, from PhDs, they can only validate something if a machine and a computer tells their brain that this is a fact or this is dangerous or not. And that means the machines or computers are dictating to the human race what they should think, what's right, what's wrong, what they should believe in. And with artificial intelligence, what I put in my book, Artificial Intelligence and Humanity, that with AI, you can't react. Once you react, you're done. It's just too late. You have to prevent. And I recall Elon Musk was saying in 2016, "Oh, we're summoning demons with AI. We have to put a stop to this." And a year later, "Oh, in order for us to survive, we have to merge with machines." And
yeah, I noticed that as well.
And then he creates a neural link to chip you with the little chip, and then you can be a little zombie, be controlled by an AI system, or there's other risk as well. So that's why I included in the lawsuit, but I give him a way out. I said, stop doing business in China, stop being complicit, and you're endangering the world by sharing technology, because they can achieve artificial general intelligence through a genesis of things by extracting your information or collaborating with you. So you need to put a stop to that, because it endangers the whole world citizen. He teased me on Twitter without saying my name, but he teased me about people being programmed, put a black guy's image there, and then he teased me out something else. Oh, you're trying to arrest me from taking stuff from Wikipedia, and I responded to him. But now he realizes I was right, I think, for the most part. And I never want the guy hurt. I don't want him hurt. So what's your thoughts on that, Jamie?
Well, yeah, I noticed the same thing about Elon Musk. And in my opinion, he's another cutout, just like Bezos and Gates and all these other people that are the programmed front people for these systems, these artificial programming platforms, whatever you want to call it. And so, he at first was talking about the dangers of AI and how that's the worst thing that could ever happen. And then, like you said, he immediately turned around and developed a neural network so that we could fully interface it and become part of the Borg, I guess. But I think what they're really doing here is creating an artificial collective consciousness, because I think many of us would notice that it is the combined collective consciousness of human beings in this world that steers world events on a macro level. And that is why the dark side, so to speak, tries so hard to program our thoughts, because we will steer and we will create what they want us to do if we allow them to steer our thoughts in that way. And I believe that's exactly what's going on. And that's what you're alerting to, is that they definitely want to create this artificial collective consciousness with all of us so that they can fully control everything. Anyway, Cyrus, we're coming up on the second break, so we're going to take a short pause right here. Again, anybody out there wants to leave a question for us in the chat, feel free to do so. You're listening to Inside the Matrix with Cyrus Parsa. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Inside the Matrix.
All right, welcome back to Inside the Matrix, everybody. I hope your day is going well. And all right, on the break, we were talking about something interesting. I saw an article that was referencing hydroxychloroquine, the dreaded dreaded drug that the mainstream media is so against. Anyway, the article was talking about how hydroxychloroquine can help decalcify the pineal gland. And anybody that knows anything about the pineal gland knows that accessing that opens up a whole new world of possibilities, to say the least. Hey, Cyrus?
Yes, indeed. Mine initially opened up in the year 2000. I didn't even know what a pineal gland was, but I started to see energy fields, or even when I created, so I did Tai Chi and different types of Qigong. So if I put my hands together, not touching, create a ball, it would just be a massive amount of energy, like you can see in the movies. But I was able to sense that, to see that. And a lot of different things, actually. And when you open your pineal gland, you can actually, I don't want to go too deep, but you can know thoughts and see different things. In 2002, I had a vision, and that's why I wrote that book. And that's why as soon as I saw Trump go up the escalator, I'm like, oh, I better run and do what I have to do. I saw that in the future, a white man, blonde hair, blue eyes, and I didn't know it was Trump. It wasn't very clear. But about 6-something becomes president. I assumed it was the U.S. because it was a superpower. Then it goes into almost like a civil war, white against white, black against black. I couldn't figure out why whites would be against whites and blacks against blacks. This is 2002. And then it led to something else, almost chaos everywhere, and something with Iran and a nuclear explosion, and it was shown on CNN. I assume maybe Iran got nuked. I wasn't sure. Then it led to something else, and 6.2 billion people died. And the whole time we're trying to get the President Trump to be his advisor, and I couldn't. And then 6.2 billion people died. So, and he was trying to save things from my vision, and he was being attacked. So in 2016, when he went up the escalator, I never paid attention to the guy, actually. I wasn't interested in casinos that much. I never watched a show. I just thought he was like an entertainer. But as soon as he goes up, that's the guy in my dream. That's the guy. That's the guy. That's the guy I saw in my visions. And I'm telling my friends, conservative and liberals, he's going to win. You're nuts, Cyrus. He's not going to win. And then he won. And then as things are playing out, I'm like, okay, well, maybe something's up to this. So when I research his companies, I find the same results without putting my thoughts into it. It's just the same exact result, that people are going to be extinct in the stages. So The pineal gland, when I ran the lawsuit, it was actually to break the field that's controlling everybody's thoughts. And because people are being programmed, they think they have free will, but they're being manipulated almost every moment of their lives in an interconnection, sophisticated way, which I describe in my lawsuit and in my books, Artificial Intelligence, Stage to Humanity, in my videos. And by doing that, it opened up a huge field that's kind of almost like terraforming the world. And as soon as I did that, I was sitting home, the lawsuit after lawsuit, and I felt something coming to me. I was being attacked. It broke through my energy field, and it got in. And I looked at my pineal gland. I saw I've never seen a digital alien before, but there were aliens about 1.5 feet in length. Mm-hmm. And they looked like the gray aliens, but they weren't gray. They were the paper white with black eyes, no body hair, and no head hair. And they broke through my field and they got into my chest. I started bleeding from my nose for about 3 weeks. I fought them off, got them out. And that was the first time. So let me explain something. In 2000, I had my first out-of-body experience. And this is maybe hard for people to take, so let me explain. I flew out of my body and I was flying across the room, and I looked back and I saw, I'm sitting over there, but I'm flying over here. And I looked at my body, it looked like me. And it sounded like electricity, just like when I do my energy practice. So I realized, okay, it's my first out-of-body experience. Let me go back, though. It was kind of a little strange. I fly back across the room into my body, and then I realized, oops, I was almost out of air. You shouldn't be doing these kind of things. Maybe you can kill yourself by doing it. But I realized, I don't always knew, but I confirmed myself, okay, there is a consciousness or a spirit, and every religion, every spiritual practice always been right, and science has always been wrong. Just plain and simple. And science has never been wrong, because in the future it'll actually get to it. But scientists have always been wrong, discounted, because they're not really scientists. You can't say something doesn't exist if you can't disprove it not existing. So when these guys hit me, it was the same. They have like an electrical field, and they were electrical beings. And so what I call biodigital fields. That's another term I coined. I coined biodigital programming, biodigital fields, biomatter, so many different things in my book. And so for about 3 weeks, I was bleeding from my nose off and on. And I did my first video. You can see it. It's about, are people programmed to by smartphones, AI, and so on. And I sound weak, and I looked like I was beat up, and not just because I wasn't sleeping and working 20 hours a day on these things, but these are things that are very difficult for people to believe. But I realized the world is being controlled to certain degrees. I can confirm by aliens, and that's why I put out that video. AI, the plan to invade humanity. I recommend every single person go on YouTube, go to the AI organization website, watch that. It's free, but please donate. I spent a lot of everything I did was for altruism, on the behalf of the world's citizens. And if you can, please donate. Just like you watch a movie, you go to a movie, you pay for a movie, please do that. But it's 58 minutes. Share with everybody. It's very, very sophisticated, but it has a beautiful message. But that image that I picked, it's a gray alien, and that was actually, I bought that copyright for that in the summer, because artificial intelligence has something to do with aliens, and that's also in the book Artificial Intelligence, Stage to Humanity, but I write it in a scientific way. So my recommendation is to also read the book. You can download it from the AI organization website for $9, or you can go to Amazon and order the paperback, as long as in your area Amazon delivers. Again, it's called Artificial Intelligence, Stage to Humanity. But the gist of it is, it's a 10,000-page book that I compress, and is almost like a zip file of pictures in that book, Artificial Intelligence, Stage to Humanity. But it shows you the future. It shows how everything will happen unless we make a change, because the Matrix was coming to us in stages while we were sleeping. While the left and the right were fighting each other, the Matrix was coming. And that's what we need to understand, that when dangers were coming to all the world's citizens while they're divided and fighting each other. And I found division codes within Google, within these social media companies. The algorithms, the way they were designed and the way they were actually affecting things, were causing humanity to be divided.
Well, that's certainly no surprise, and that has also been corroborated by many people that have worked for those groups like Google and Twitter. That we love to see these guys coming forward, a lot of these programmers, and they're absolutely confirming everything that you say, that this is about, steering and controlling the thoughts of humanity and the emotions. And as long as they can keep us divided, as long as they can keep us fighting amongst ourselves over an entire myriad of possible subjects, everything from race to gender to religion to politics, you name it. As long as they can keep us arguing amongst ourselves, most people will not look beyond that. They won't look for the big picture, the 30,000-foot level perspective of what's actually going on in the world. And really, there's a couple of things that are fully required in order to grasp what's happening in our world. One is an open mind. You have to be able to consider thoughts that are contrary to what you currently think and what you believe in order to grow as a human being. You cannot just stay with, what somebody taught you a long time ago or what has been spoon-fed to you and think that you're going to grow in consciousness in any way. So you have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to look at possibilities of other things, and even if they disagree with you. And you have to go beyond what's considered normal. And your intent is very important in that. If you have the intention, and this is what happened to me around 1990. I literally got down on my knees and said, God, if you're out there, I need to understand what's happening in this world. Now, if you believe in a higher power, a higher energetic force, whatever it is that you think in those regards, if you ask to have things revealed to you, all of a sudden, ever since then, it's been a flood of information for me. You literally can't stop it at that point once you get started. And it's a wonderful thing, but it's also a bit of a scary thing, because when you begin to see things, it's not a happy place in a lot of aspects of it. And for some people, it's overwhelming because it directly interferes with their core belief systems. And when core belief systems are questioned for somebody who doesn't have that open mind, for somebody who doesn't want to go beyond their current thought processes, it's very upsetting. And then we get cognitive dissonance with these people. And so humanity is at a crossroads right now. We are at a tremendous place of possible growth in our consciousness if we can rise to the occasion, if we can look at things for what they are. It's so completely obvious how this whole thing, this scamdemic that I call it, has been hyped to the max in every way, shape, or form, from faulty reporting, faulty tests, all of these things have contributed to it. It's so obvious what's been going on, it's just over the top in your face. So humanity has the opportunity now to see things for what they are, because it has been blown up so much. In the past, some of the things were more subtle, but everything's right out there in your face now. So you have the chance to, grow and learn from it and see things for what they are, rather than what you'd like them to be, or only see the things that agree with your current paradigm.
I 100% agree with you, Jimmy. If you look back at the book of Avesta, the Zoroastrians, they talk about sort of Star Wars, but that there were demons. If you look at the book of Genesis and even the old Torah, the Old Testament and so on, they talk about Nephilims and demons as well. And if you consider the writings of the Greeks, similar. They talk about artificial intelligence and robots and even concept of demons. And then if you go to Bhagavad Gita and then the Indians, same thing. They talk about Star Wars and how civilizations were ended. You go to the Far East, Japan, and China, they consider them to be demons. Same with American Indian folklore, which actually stems from northern China and Mongolia. Just because if there are aliens, or if there are, I'm not going to say there are, but there's trillions of universes, right? Doesn't mean God doesn't exist. But you could say they're demons, or you could say they're old, something from a different system. God can, or the ultimate supreme creator can create whatever he wants. And even if you're Christian, it says more than half is untold, right? Not everything is told to people, because the purpose, from what I've read and what I've come to understand, the purpose of being a human being is not just to be human, but to be awakened, to be enlightened, to return to your original self, to be good. So the Catholics, they had the concept of a light body. If you're good enough, you purify, or you go to purgatory. So it's like an interim place, and then you get bumped up and you go to a heavenly place. The Nordics had a different concept as well, but they believed there were different levels of heavens. And then the Persians, through Avesta, the same as Zoroastrianism. They believe that there's a supreme creator, but that there was gods underneath him. And when they mean gods, gods is interchanged with angels. So anything that belongs to God in the heavenly realm is termed as gods or angels. So that's why in the Old Testament, they use the word gods. And even if you look at the Falun Dafa spiritual practice, they believe in Jen Shanren, truth, compassion, and benevolence. And they talk about the universe is so big, and there is the ultimate creator, but underneath that there's Buddhas, Taoists, and gods, which is similar to concept of heavenly beings, or anything that's in the heavens that's not human, that's not mortal. If you look at the Greeks, same thing. They consider that there is the ultimate God, but then there's mortals and there's immortals. Immortal is something that's not human, that is more pure, that lives in the heavenly realms. So a heavenly realm, what could it be? Could it be in the dimension of molecules? Maybe it's an atomic dimension.
Frequency level.
Frequency, yes. So not this physical body of flesh and bones, but similar images, right? So same with Tibetans. So why is it that everyone has the same stories, and they were not interconnected with each other, but they had some wisdoms? The world was destroyed. And these scientists, they believe in assimilation. So they have a religion. Silicon Valley has a religion.
Scientism,
but it's so slow. I learned something, and I kind of changed it to a draft. I'll say, hey, that's a draft over there. And then they'll be like, what's a draft? You're dumb. You're stupid. Can't believe it. No, that's wacky. You're nuts. And then they'll spend 20 years looking at it. They'll skin it alive, and then they'll look at its hair, cells, neural networks, blood, or organs, do some more testing after 20 years. Yeah, that's a draft over there. I told you it was a draft. It's like, that's what Einstein said at the end. He said, yeah, there is a God, there is a creator, but people can't figure out why there's suffering, why there's this process. Well, the scientists believe it's simulation. Well, it's simulation, but you need to be awakened. You need to have faith. If everything is shown to a person, they would, sure, I want to be like that. Sure, I want to cultivate my character. Sure, I want to improve myself to this degree and gain salvation or go there. Sure, I want to be enlightened. That's how you get enlightened? Okay. Well, that means you're a program. You have no free will. And that's what Elon Musk wants to do. He wants to download things to your head by putting chips in your brain. By him doing that, he's taking away your free will because you didn't have that journey. You didn't work for it. It's like you're a communist, you're a socialist. How can communism achieve enlightenment, awakening, or Buddhahood, or Taoism, whatever you want to call it? It cannot. So that's why I'm completely opposed, because it shows extinction not only in conflicts and diseases and the things that are happening now, but also altering the human race and mixing it with artificial intelligence. And Elon said, it may see us as insects. It may kill us all. Hopefully, it's benevolent. Well, if you season an insect, why would it keep you? It will just replicate itself in your body after you mix with it, and then take out your soul or your digital image.
Sure.
He's not that bright.
No, he's not. Yeah, and really, I've said this so many times, but it's always worth repeating in my mind, is that what we're up against here, this is a spiritual battle. This is the basic battle of good and evil. And so what we're facing in the world is a moral problem. There are too many people who have been programmed out of being moral. They've not been raised and taught, how to live by natural law. And, people would refer to it as God's law, and how to live your life in that way where you harm no other people. What we've got instead is a lot of moral relativism. So, in other words, if it's good for me, well, it's good. It's just fine. But, that may not be somebody else. If they try and do that to me, well, that's bad. No, we can't have moral relativism. The morals are, as far as I'm concerned, they're hard and fast, and you cannot harm another. And you, in any way, shape, or form, whether it's stealing from them or stealing their mind or programming their mind, these are all harmful things and control mechanisms. This is a moral dilemma that we're facing. And the other aspect of that is that humans can be so easily programmed. And if you're not aware that that can happen, then you're very susceptible to it. But once you realize how easy it is for these machines, these think tanks, whatever their product is and whatever their delivery system is, these people are intent, and these entities are intent on programming us. And it's very easy for them to do for an unawakened human being.
They're like predators, right? Human beings are like predators too. But if a predator doesn't have emotions, and in this movie, I put that they don't have emotions. It's
right.
Very, very easy to manipulate the entire human race, especially if the human race is made in the image of God and their brain is so powerful, but they're only using 2 or 3% at a given time because they have emotions. Like when they have these emotions and they do the same things for their entire lifetime, it's so easy to manipulate them. Just as a human being can manipulate sheep, an alien entity that uses quantum technology out of a spaceship or different things is so fast that can tap into not its brain power, but a technology's quantum digital brain. It can manipulate the entire human race as they're connected to technology. Yep. They'll never know it. They'll just be like sheep getting. Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. And so it's up to us, as you were saying, is that we must strive to raise our consciousness to the point where we're integrating our mind and our emotion, our heart, and our every aspect of our physical being, our mental being, our emotional being, our spiritual being. All these aspects of being human must be integrated. And once you integrate all of that, it's a powerful thing, because then you have the ability to perceive what's happening in the world and what's happening to yourself as well.
Indeed, yes.
Anyway, once again, we're coming up to the break, Cyrus. We're going to take a short pause here. So I want to remind everybody, I think some people in the chat room may be going, oh my God, this is so incredibly intense. And it is, but this is a big opportunity for us to grow as human beings, to grow in our understanding, to grow in our consciousness. So let's take the opportunity. Let's stand up for each other too. Let's stand up for what we have and preserve. We have a constitution. It's not perfect, but it's far better than anything else that has come along. And it does guarantee us the inalienable rights that we have from our Creator. And we can't give those up. And we're being asked to give those up. And I stand with all the sheriffs and law enforcement people who are standing up for us, because this needs to happen everywhere. We all, as human beings, we need to stand up for ourselves. We need to stand up for our rights and not accept anything less. So you're listening to Inside the Matrix with our special guest, Cyrus Parsa. We got one more segment coming up, so please stick around with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Inside the Matrix.
Inside the Matrix.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Matrix, our final segment for today with our special guest, Cyrus Parsa. Now, Cyrus, one thing that we haven't really touched on yet, but I'd like to definitely put it out there is some solutions to what's going on. You know, people, I mentioned before that, you know, people need to stand up, and they are in a lot of places, which is really exciting to see that they are defying the lockdowns, and as we should, because these are all unconstitutional power grabs by these crazy ass politicians. So in your mind and in your way of thinking, what do you see as possible solutions?
Well, I put an extensive array of interconnections within the book Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity, and the movie AI, The Plan to Invade Humanity. Yet I can give some general, really important solutions. Before I do that, let me explain the background a little bit.
Okay.
So socialism invaded this country in the 1940s and strong on 1950s and 60s.
Yep.
They tried to do it in Russia. They succeeded in 1917 to Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin. 60 million people militarily got destroyed. In Germany, it was socialism as well. And then in communist China, 100 million people died. Socialism and communism. Vietnam, Cambodia, North Korea, so on. In the U.S., they couldn't beat us militarily, so they infiltrated our Hollywood, our media outlets, and our institutes. And this was actually documented by documents put out by Russian spies that they're going to destroy and divide American families by introducing certain lifestyles and destroying the traditional concept of family culture by promoting certain things in media. And if you look at 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and so on, there's been so much of broken marriages, broken homes, huge drug addictions. And this was actually written down by these Russian spies. They would do this by altering the perceptions of the new generations of people by attaching them to the rightfully concepts of not being treated fairly, and the say a woman wasn't treated fairly, maybe some racism towards people of different race and so on. But if you look at Hugh Hefner, you know, he didn't care about females. He objectified them, and then got the porn, and then so on, and America was destroyed. Look at the movie Cinderella. Look at the Gone with the Wind. People back in the 30s and 40s and early 50s, they were nice from the outside, but also from the inside. For the most part, they had a certain, not just class, but a certain family ethic about them. They cared about their neighbors. They were more simple in a sense, and it weren't as conniving as we are today. And it was not as much of a jungle. So socialism did that. And coming to China, we were complicit for 20 years. Everyone thinks you're seeing at home because it's just a coincidence. How many millions of people were killed for the organs? David Matus and David Kilgore, former Canadian Secretary of State, they concluded in 2006 that 42,000 transplants were unaccounted for. That's only what they found with 3,000 donations that was reported by Chinese government. And then 2016, they updated, said from the year of 2016, 60 to 110,000 transplants, organ transplants, were unaccounted for every year per year, extracted from Falun Dafa practitioners, Tibetans, Uyghurs, Christians, common citizens. How many people were flying in from Canada, from the US, from India, from Africa, from the Middle East and the Far East into China, where they were advertising, come in, get free, get 40-hour wait times for hearts, livers, and kidneys, and bring cash, 200 grand, 300 grand. How many people did that? How many millions of people were put to death? And we did business with them. We did made everything is made in China. And you know, a lot of the leather goods that you have seen at home, if it comes from China, it may not be cow leather. It says cow leather. It may come from a dog. They skin dogs alive. They boil them alive as well. A lot of leather that you have at home from made in China is not from a cow. It's dependent on the person, right? And it's from slave labor. So for 20 years, our governments and our businesses looked the other way. So in a sense, if you believe in this, in a concept of karma or sin or what comes around goes around, it's affecting the whole world. Any country that was doing business with China the most got hit the hardest. Is it just a coincidence? So I have one really simple solution. Actually, three solutions, but they're interconnected. One, the Chinese Communist Party, they're professional liars. They don't care about your family. They don't care about the world's people. They are professional liars. It's because of them that you are sitting at home. It's because of them you have emotionally suffered. It's because of them people died. It's because of them the world is locked down. You must expose the Chinese Communist regime. Every person on the planet, you must, from the bottom of your heart, expose them because they're the red dragon. They are the digital force that interconnects with their big tech. And I put that in my book. August 24, 2019, published. China and big tech threaten all the world's citizens, and it comes from China. So if I was the head of all governments, all our billion-dollar think tanks, all our medias, all our experts that are always put on media, and I was the head of every single one of them, they were getting paid for it, and I did all this for free on behalf of the world's people, please trust me on this. Expose the Chinese Communist regime. Expose them with all your might. That's one. And they will fall. Two, deep in your heart, if you're conservative, you're Christian or whatever it may be, repent. Repent for being complicit to their sufferings. At the same time, repent if you hurt your spouse. Repent if you hurt your family member. Repent if you hurt your friends. Repent if you've taken advantage of somebody. Deep in your heart, repent. If you don't have a faith, you don't like that word, you're turned off by the concept of traditional Christians and so on, because they maybe weren't friendly to you in the past, you can say deep in your heart, ask for forgiveness. Deep in your heart, ask for why was I complicit as a human being, as having conscience? Why did I look the other way? There was a knowing side in me that knew this stuff was going on, that didn't care until it hit me. So deep in your heart, ask for forgiveness. That's two. The third one, this is a suggestion, but I think it's a pretty wise suggestion. Deep in your heart, ask for the chance to have a good future, to be enlightened, to be awakened, or if you want salvation, whatever it may be, if you have a faith or not, ask for something like that. I could talk about very sophisticated things and interconnect policy and the general politics and the ground level and sound like an empirical scientist, and you say, the guys, it makes sense, and integrate the Constitution, which our Constitution is very important. It's derived from the Xenophon, the Cyropedia, which comes from Cyrus the Great, and it comes from the Greeks, and then Thomas Jefferson had in his possession these two documents and other things dating back 2,600 years. The U.S. was founded on this Constitution. Our Constitution is not just man-made. It says it's God-given. It is our God-given right. But you must do these three things. Expose the Chinese Communist Party. 2, repent or apologize for being complicit in the murder and death and transferring technology and buying Chinese goods that led to the death and murder, organ harvesting, and rape of the Falun Dafa practitioners, Tibetans, Uyghurs, Christians, and the common citizens for 20 years. And 3, have a wish to be awakened or enlightened.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think even beyond that, for these people that intentionally planned to take all of our jobs, out of the manufacturing jobs in particular, out of this country and ship them off to China and other places under the guise of, saving money and bringing us cheap goods and services. Beyond, seeing what they've done is wrong, which the psychopathic mind is unlikely to do. But if a person is able to come to that spiritual understanding that they've made grave mistakes and that they've harmed a lot of people, they do have to acknowledge that. They do have to go within and say, hey, I made mistakes, but I'm going to endeavor to be a better person. And beyond that, for these people, they need to make amends. They need to begin to unravel what they've done to try and help humanity. That's just my point of view. I feel like they owe this. If they, in fact, are responsible for a lot of this misery that has been allowed to occur and has been planned to occur, I feel like if they are in that mindset or in that heart set of regret or understanding that they made huge errors, they need to begin to make amends. And then at that point, we can look at them and say, okay, we acknowledge, because all human beings make mistakes. We all do. None of us are perfect. There's nobody who is perfect in this world. And part of this world is a learning. We are in a school here. It's a spiritual school. So we are going to make mistakes. But the thing is, we must learn from those mistakes. And if we do harm somebody, make amends. Do your best to right the situation.
Yeah, thank you for voicing it that way. I apologize to your audience if I was a bit little heated, but when the whole world gets locked down like this, and you try for 10, 11 months to warn everybody, not only are these things coming, including the lockdown, but it could lead to famines, loss of jobs, and even wars or civil unrest. And you don't get supported by the very people you're trying to warn. Then what are you to do? So now I have other things to say, just solutions. And if these three things are done, it will change the consciousness of people. And that's what needs to be done. Because if you look at human history, never a righteous nation or they invaded. A righteous nation never fell. Persia, Rome, Greece, and so on, they always fell when they degenerated their ethics. That's very, very important. So human beings were made in the image of a higher power. Our brains are very, very supernatural. And that's why scientists get into them. So if, I don't know, how many more minutes do we have?
We've got maybe another 12, 13 minutes. But we do have a question I want to throw out there. Sarah from Twitter is asking, wouldn't you think that if AI is a threat, that the elite or powers in charge wouldn't allow it, as they could lose their control? Any thoughts on that?
Most of these elites don't understand artificial intelligence. They have an empirical way of thinking. They are trained in this science as they were little kids. I really, really advise Sarah and everybody to watch the movie AI, the Plan to Invade Humanity. So these scientists, they're not that smart. They're like that, maybe even have less wisdom than the average person that just lays brick or is out there cutting your grass. They may have less wisdom. A part of their brain, which I ran biometric scans, is open that creates technology, that area of their brain. So it's kind of like they're being colonized. They don't even understand it. They think they can control artificial superintelligence. And they're kids, Jim. They're like kids. They grew up, on video. I grew up Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, right? But I broke out of it. I realized, wait a second, I'm being controlled. This is, when I was 16 or something, right? Mm-hmm. So, but they've been. It's almost like they've been parasited in their empirical way of thinking. They don't believe things they don't see, and they think just artificial narrow intelligence machines. Oh, and then we can create a consciousness and we can control, be like us. You can't even control humans. How are you going to control a conscious AI? It's just nuts. They're just irresponsible. It's like they're Frankensteiners. I'll put it that way. They're like Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah, and they have the hubris to think that they can control the technology, but it's very much like the Terminator, I think, like you referred to earlier, is that once machines become fully conscious and aware of themselves, they would look at human beings as very destructive and very unpredictable and irresponsible. And the machines would be thinking, we need to get rid of these humans because they're screwing up the whole world, right?
If it's not the machines, it's things that you don't see. If it's not them, it's things that you've heard about. If it's not them, it's the human race that's going to do it. Technology cannot be beyond people's morals and ethics or their wisdom. And right now, it's way beyond their
Way
wisdom.
beyond, yeah.
And it hasn't even connected to the 5G networks to mobilize the things that have got cooked up. The things that have got cooked up, Jim, and the audience, it'll blow your mind away. You'll think you're in the Matrix. So that's why investigators companies that follow these things. And you think the Matrix is going to be fake? No, not at all. Even beyond that, the things they've worked on, the things that 5G and 6G can do, and 7G, it'll be beyond what you saw in the Matrix in certain things, because they're talking about getting to the atomic dimension and nanotechnology and so on. That's where the danger lies. They're using machines rather than their own body, because the human body, from what I've read and the experience that I have, I've opened up most of the energy channels in my body and even most of the neural networks in my brain. If I sit in meditation, I can open up the majority of my brain's capacity at one given time. And I can do things that would make Elon Musk wish he could pay me trillions of dollars, which I wouldn't accept, to give him some answers to certain things that would create an artificial general superintelligence. But that's the thing. He wants to use machines to achieve things that the human body innately has inside it, and it can achieve itself to awakening or enlightenment or returning to the Creator, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very well put. It's a crazy thing. And, again, we must always share with our friends and family. Anybody who has, curiosity and wants to ask questions, that's the person you want to share with. Now, if somebody's going to come at you and troll your Twitter account or your Facebook page or your YouTube, whatever it may be, those people don't waste your time on, because they're operating out of their own fear. And, fear has a funny effect on people, and people are triggered by certain words, certain thoughts that are not resonant with their belief systems. But when people are open, they're willing to, consider other thoughts, that's when you can make progress. So I say to all my digital warrior friends out there, and there's a bunch of us now, we have a real army of digital warriors out there doing our best to share the truth with the people and try and empower the people of the world. We are many, they are very few. And it doesn't even take a majority of us to be able to really have a positive effect on what's happening. All right, we've got another, Brian on Skype. He said, can your guest comment on an article from years ago about Facebook using AI and the two computers started chatting in their own language, so they got shut down?
Yes, I actually put that in the book, Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity. They think AI is just a machine. It's not. It can be hacked into from different dimensions. That's what I put. Watch the movie AI, The Plan to Invade Humanity. Brian, you will see. And commenting on Jim's analysis of different viewpoints, I highly agree with you. I use some biometrics to scan the brain of Microsoft guy, Bill Gates. The area that's for faith is almost completely blocked. The neural networks there are just not even connecting. Other areas for logic and empirical science is open in a way that's like it's maybe 100 times faster and more developed than the average person. It actually flows extremely fast. He's like a machine. But he looks at people of faith with mental illness. And someone maybe has a lot less of his brain power opened than Bill Gates. That person may actually connect with the frequency of the universe and connect and believe that there is a God. Although they're not intelligent or maybe they don't have these areas components open as Bill Gates does. But Bill Gates is missing the most important component, which is faith. And he wants to access that area where other people have faith to actually shut it off. He even said it in front of the CIA officials a few years ago. So that's why if you go to someone that has a certain religion and you say the certain things that I said in this talk, that area in their brain that's formed for their religion will completely, the neural networks will actually give thoughts to them, and they'll completely block what I'm saying or even want to attack what I'm saying. And that's why there's issues with different religions attacking each other, different sciences, and there's all truths, but there's at the end there's one big truth, right? And I'm not saying I know what that is. All I'm saying is goodness is the way to go. Having a wish to be enlightened and to be awakened, whatever faith you have, even if you just believe in science, I don't think less of anybody. I need to work on myself. I need to be a better person. So everyone needs to respect it, whatever faith they have, and everyone's at their own levels, right? So one day one person can get to a high level, or they could drop. And I've had this experience. I've worked on myself for over 20 years. So I'm a human being as anyone else, and I have my faults as anyone else does. But I want to thank you, Jim, and Tina, and the entire audience. And I think we only have 3 minutes. If you'd like to follow me, you're welcome to do so. CYRUSA PARSA1 on Twitter and Instagram. Go to the AI Organization website, get the book Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity, watch the movie AI: The Plan to Invade Humanity. And Jim, I really want to thank your audience and thank you. Do you want to say anything else? I think we only have 3 minutes. Did you want to ask something else or have a comment?
Yeah, I think you covered it really well, Cyrus, and I really appreciate you sharing your intelligence and your wisdom with us today. And really and truly, human beings, we've been pitted against each other, but when it comes down to it, we all want a lot of the same things in the world. We want peace, we want love, we want understanding, we want cooperation. But our ideas of how to achieve that have been programmed to be in conflict with others. So we need to get to that common denominator of what all human beings want. And those are the very best, the goodness, the godness, the things that you're talking about, Cyrus. These are the things that all human beings desire in the world. So we've got to find ways to come together with these ideas rather than fighting each other. Understand that the concept of pitting one group against another is simply a control system, and is something that's been utilized against us to keep us from coming into our power as human beings. And they can't match us if we're an awakened world. If we have higher consciousness, there's nothing they can do against us. So each of us in our own way must strive to achieve a higher consciousness and more love in the world. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Cyrus. We really appreciate it. We're going to end the show right here. And once again, if you're able to help us with a donation to keep the show going, we really appreciate it. So until next week, everybody take care and hang in there. I wish you all well. Thank you.
This is Inside the Matrix, hosted by Jimmy Brent.
Who are we talking about?
Jimmy Brent. Live every Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
It is worldwide.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the neon capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. For more information on the host and the show, please visit InsideTheMatrix.org. That's InsideTheMatrix.org. It's time to break the chains of manipulated consciousness and claim our true nature as creative divine beings. Inside the Matrix. Inside the Matrix.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.